Hey everyone, I'm Marvin, and here we believe that teachers are leaders. And so our purpose is to equip teachers with the tools they need to help lead their students to success. And wow, what an interesting, unique time that we are living in. We learned quite a bit in the spring when we had to transition to virtual learning in the spring. But starting the school year with distance learning is an entirely different challenge. And as leaders, we have to rise up and face that challenge. And so what I'm going to do in this video is I'm going to give you some tips that you can use in order to start the year off with a bang, even though it's in a virtual setting. So I had a feeling that we would be here at this moment looking at the prospect of starting the school year online. And there's a number of factors that led me to believe that. I do pray as you're watching this, I pray that you and your family are well. And I do pray that we could put COVID-19 in the rear view really, really, really soon. So I want to give you the first tip by sharing with you some advertising research. Advertising research tells us that the human memory starts to decay after that first 24 hours of the event or of acquiring information. And that is just really interesting to think about, that those memories, they start to fade just out of our mind that quick. And that makes sense when you think about the fact that so many businesses spend so much money on advertising. And look, check this out. This is McDonald's. Yes, that McDonald's. McDonald's spent in 2019, they spent $447 million on advertising. Now, of course, that's probably isn't a shock to you because you see McDonald's advertising everywhere. McDonald's is going into business with athletes and musicians in order to get the word out about their food. But why do they do that? That's the question to consider. And what can we learn from the fact that these businesses, they devote so much money into advertising? Because you can best believe that these businesses are getting the money that they invest in advertising. They're getting that money back and more. So what can we as teachers learn from this? We need to find a way, especially now, especially in this setting, we need to find a way to make our content sticky. And one way we can do this is by using themes. Make good use of themes. And we just had it just last month where we had like the Christmas in July. At my church, we have a drive-in. We have a drive-in, and we got a big screen in the parking lot. We tune our radio to the service, and one Sunday we had a pause the Lord, and so we were able to bring our pets to the service. And let's see, what's another one? Oh, Taco Tuesday. That's another theme. Just making things memorable by also putting that memory, that thought into the brain. So how do you apply this? Here it is right here. And notice as you look at this PowerPoint, when I was in the classroom, I taught students this method, like in the subject, in that title, in that title, put a question there. And then your bullet points in the body of the PowerPoint, those answer the question. And with this formula, it makes sure that your audience can follow along, and it gives them a pattern. And so you're going to see this pattern obviously throughout this. So let's get back to this. How do you apply this tip? How do you make good use of themes to make that information stick, to make those moments in your virtual class stick? You can use themes for specific days of the week, like the Taco Tuesday, like I referenced. And with all of these, you've got to make them stick and make them work for your class. So yeah, here we go. We got specific days of the week, however you want to make it flow, whatever skill or concept you want to focus on, specific days of the week. Then we have segments of the class. It's very important that you're cognizant of how that time is being spent when the students are with you. How are you spending that time? And I definitely believe that, if you take a 10-15 minute segment of that class and do something special with it, give it a good theme, make it memorable, I guarantee you that information in that moment is going to have a better chance of sticking into their long-term memory. You can give certain assignments a special connotation in the minds of your students. Again, that's however you want to use it. We all have to be creative during this time in order to really make this work for the students. And then lastly, definitely your culture is still important. Even though the students are not with you in the classroom, your culture is very, very important. So definitely you'll need to come up with some rituals, and you need to focus on maintaining a great culture in your virtual classroom, and you can use themes in order to do that. So that's tip number 1. Tip number 2, in our society, we have this rule. We have this rule that if you're invited to a party, you got to bring something. You got to bring something. No one wants to be that person to show up to a party empty handed, whether that be wings, a cold beverage, a veggie tray, or something. You got to bring something if you're invited to a party. And you better bring something. It doesn't matter what you have to do. If you have to steal a marble rye from grandma on the street, if you got to do that, you better do it, because you don't want to show up at that party empty handed. You better not do it. So I say that to lead us into the second tip, which is flip your class. Flip your classroom, because and what I really enjoyed about my time in the classroom once I flipped my class was the fact that the kids were able to come in the door with something. And so I could start, I rearranged my whole room and my class into like a workshop, and I could really divide up the students and ask them to have conversations amongst themselves, because they already had some working knowledge of what we were talking about. And so then I was able to add on just a little bit more as they continue to talk, as they continue to ask questions. And it's a really beautiful thing. And I think that just if this is something that you have been thinking about, now is the time. Now is the time, because you have to think, even when they are in the classroom, you're competing with other things that are going on in their mind. Now they're at home. The PS4 is right there. The Xbox is right there. Like, they could play Fortnite just like that. And probably some of your students did do that. They turned off their camera while they were playing Fortnite and they had you on in the background. So yes, I flipped my classroom, and it was wonderful. But listen, I don't want you to be intimidated by the prospect of flipping your classroom. You don't have to create your own content. That's a beautiful thing. You don't have to create your own content if that is a little bit too intimidating for you to set the camera up and do the editing. That's fine. But if you are curious to know about my editing and what I did, look in the description section. You can find out a little bit more about my actual setup and what I put together. And I'm going to share with you a clip of my first video. It's really interesting. I think it's 7 years ago I filmed this video. But yeah, you don't have to create your own content. There's Edpuzzle. Edpuzzle is a game changer in that you can find other people's videos, and you can post it on here, and then you can put some questions on the site as well, and you can send your students there and they can answer those questions. Also, Khan Academy, they have a lot of videos, and I'll link to this in the description section as well. Khan Academy, they have a lot of videos with different topics. And then YouTube has so many educational videos out there. It's just really amazing the amounts of videos that are out there. So you don't necessarily have to film your own content, but it does take a little work in terms of watching the video, and then you can make your own questions up based on the video. Now, some channels such as mine, I have my channel, the name of my channel is Vision Chasers, and I encourage you to go there and check it out. Vision Chasers, what I did with my channel was, I put some US history because that's what I taught. I put US history on there. And then as I got going, I said to myself, you know what? Maybe I'll put some motivational stuff on there as well. So on my channel, if you're looking for things, motivational videos to share with your students about, studying, making good decisions, I encourage you to check out my other YouTube channel, Vision Chasers. And so I've talked about Vision Chasers, and hopefully you will go there after you watch this video and subscribe to that channel as well, and maybe even use some of those videos. I want to show you my first video when I flipped my classroom. Check this out. This is something. Here we go. Today we're going to talk about the amendments to the United States Constitution. Now, there are 27 amendments to the Constitution, and it can be very challenging to try to remember them all, especially if you're given a test and you have to write them all down. That's very challenging. So what we're going to do today is so you can see, definitely we're just starting out, but the wonderful thing about it is I got the information across. And so the students, they had that information, they entered the classroom with that information. So now we can roll because we've got that foundational stuff taken care of already. So this is a key to really understanding the flipped classroom model. It's this right here, and I apologize, it's a long sentence, but I want you to fully be able to apply each and every one of these tips that I'm giving you. So when you're flipping the classroom, understand this, is that you have to plan with the expectation that students enter your virtual class with specific knowledge that you've already given them the opportunity to acquire. That's the key part. They have to have had the opportunity to acquire it, and you plan accordingly. Going into that time that you have with students that they've had the opportunity to get this knowledge. They should have it. Now let's roll. If you like what you're getting so far, if you're finding value in this, please do me a favor and like and subscribe to this channel. Thank you so much. Now let's go to the third tip. Okay, so the third tip, I want to introduce it to you like this. So let's do this. In Google, did you know, check this out. Check this out. If I go into Google and I type, let me get, there we go. If I go into Google and I type askew, look what happens. Oh, it's a little bit askewed. Very interesting. Let's do another one. If I go into Google and I type do a barrel roll, this is what happens. Check that out. Did a barrel roll. Let's do one more. If I go into Google and type, how about, we got to bring it back to Seinfeld, right? Festivus. So look at this. Here we have, for those of you who are interested, Festivus 2020, Wednesday, December 23rd. Get ready. And here we have your poll. And so, in Google, there are a lot of these hidden tricks, and these are called Easter eggs. They're called Easter eggs. And they're called Easter eggs because they are, as I said before, they're hidden and they're just waiting to be discovered. I want you to pretend that it's that time of the year in your class, and I want you to get in the habit of hiding Easter eggs all over the place. And what's the point? The point is that you are rewarding them for paying attention. Now, here's just a few ways that I thought of on how you can do this. You can use social media. You can use social media to throw a little nugget out there to see who is actually paying attention and who caught it. And then the other thing, well, let me take one step back and talk about the Easter egg. The Easter egg, it can be something fun or it can be something content specific. And so I would encourage you to use a mixture of both. Use a mixture of both. Once again, you're rewarding them for paying attention. And if they're always on their toes in your virtual classroom, that's a really good thing. That's the way you want to keep them. So how do you apply this? Social media. You can throw it in there on social media. Now, definitely, you're gonna have to feel your way through. You know your students. You know if social media, if access to a phone, if that's a problem, then that's something you're just gonna have to figure out as a leader in the classroom. But you can use a mixture of things. It doesn't have to be limited to social media, as you can see. It could be maybe a QR code on your website or something that you flash on your screen. I don't know if it'll work on your screen if you held up a QR code, but just something like that to really create some excitement. And as I said before, reward people for paying attention. So it could be a message or something on your website, or it could be something on the screen. And by on the screen, I'm talking about maybe something near you, something they can read, as you can see back here, that says stay humble, be kind, work hard. And you can just do something on the screen. Just again, you're rewarding them for paying attention. And you're making every day and doing the Easter eggs, you're making every day a new day. Every day is an experience. Your students will appreciate that because it definitely can get monotonous. You think of it, they're getting their entertainment on a screen, and now they're at a point where they're having to get their education on a screen as well. So they're looking at a computer screen or some kind of screen a lot throughout their day. So hiding Easter eggs, that just adds a nice element of fun and just rewards them for paying attention. Well, that's number three. Number four, I want to share it with you by giving you this information. Just a couple of weeks ago, my wife sent me to pick up an order that she placed for some wine. So I masked up, went in to go get the wine, and the lady, the cashier, would ask me, "Can I see your ID?" And so I said, I did one of these things. I said, "Oh, I left it in the car." And like I had this great big smile on my face. And when I looked at her, like I couldn't see anything. I couldn't see if my joke was registering at all. And so it was just awkward. It was just awkward because we didn't have that connection. The connection wasn't there because I couldn't see her face, and I guess she couldn't see mine either, or maybe she just thought this guy, I don't know about this guy, but maybe I don't know, because we just didn't have that connection. And so I say that to say that it's important that you do the very best you can in order to make sure that you're connecting with students, because we take it for granted, or we took it for granted probably when we were in the classroom with students, when we didn't have to wear on a mask, when there was no coronavirus. So now we have to work extra hard to make sure that we establish that eye to eye connection. And so the fourth tip I want to share with you is this: you need to sharpen your image. Sharpen your image. The students need to they need to feel your presence. They need to feel that connection with you. And so I want to give you some things that I want you to focus on when you get in that virtual classroom. Number one, I want you to look at the camera. Okay? Look at the camera. I know it can be difficult, but look at the camera. Don't look at your screen, because when you look at your screen, then you've lost connection with your students. Because if you're looking down at all the little tiles and they look at you, they're looking at you looking down. And that's obviously, even if you were in the classroom with them, that's a recipe for disaster. So make sure that you spend most of your time looking at the camera. Now, definitely you can bounce your eyes, definitely bounce your eyes, and that's a good strategy, but you want to spend the most of your time looking at the camera. And I'm reminded, I used to work with the teacher who he had pictures of himself around the room. So whenever he had a sub, his eyes were still on the students. And so yeah, so you want to make sure that you're looking at that camera. The other thing you want to do is you want to turn the brightness down on your screen. You want to turn that brightness down on your screen. You probably can't tell it, but I've actually got, and I was going to talk about two screens, but I'll talk about it now. So I've got two screens, like one right here, one right here. And if the brightness was all the way up, there'd be this weird blue light on my face, just hitting me like this. But because I've turned the brightness down on these screens, it doesn't put that glow on my face. So you want to make sure that you turn the brightness down on your screen or screens. Let's talk about the two screens. Now, remember I talked about bouncing the eyes. Bouncing the eyes. You could have one screen set up for the Zoom or Teams or Google Meet, whatever you're using. You can have it set up for all of your tiles, but then you can also have another one set up for, okay, this is my camera. This is me looking at you. And then whenever you need to bounce, you can go over here and look at all the tiles and make sure Johnny has his camera on, make sure he's paying attention, and or follow up with Johnny, whatever you need to do. So I encourage you to get that set up. Well, no, I'll go ahead and say it. I think it would be reasonable to ask if you wanted to borrow a screen. I don't think that would be a big deal. Or let's say, if your school got some extra money, man, that'd be a great request of your administration. Hey, would you purchase me another screen so I can have the dual screen set up so I can be as efficient as possible? I think that's a great idea to ask. You can at least ask, or ask if they'll purchase one, or ask if you can borrow one. I mean, gosh, we have to do whatever it takes, and we know as teachers sometimes we're gonna have to stand on our head in order to make sure students stay engaged. And so that's our job. That's the challenge that we took on. And so I think that's a very small ask. So if that's something that you're interested in doing and you don't want to spend your own money, I don't blame you. Ask your principal, and all they can say is yes or no. And lastly, I want you to adjust the lighting in your room. Adjust the lighting in your room. Make sure that you're not sitting in front of a window, because that's going to put that awkward glow. But rooms with daylight, that's really, really good. The daylight is really good for creating a nice crisp picture. So sharpen your image. Make sure that the students can see you, because that helps you to make that connection with them, that virtual connection with them. Often I often told students, and I still tell students this, like education is not something that just happens to you. It's not a spectator sport. You have to participate. But students definitely, you know your students. They're going to push it a little bit. They're going to push the boundaries. Because like I said before, the Xbox is there, the PS4 is there. Why don't I just play some Fortnite? So So there should be a clock that goes off in your head every 10, 12 minutes. And that clock should tell you, and that alarm should tell you that, hey, we gotta give the students something. They need something to do. And when you have flipped your classroom, you can do a lot of these different things because you've already front loaded them with a lot of the information that they need. At this point, when they get with you, they're just building on what they already learned. So here's just a few things that you can do. You can incorporate polls. Just do you can, and that poll can be taken, but shortly before the class. That's a really good one. That gives you a nice talking point. The poll can be taken during the class as well. You can also use a reactions feature in whatever platform that you're using. Again, just giving them something different to do. You're changing it up. Additionally, you can definitely take advantage of that group chat. Take advantage of the group chat because that not only gives them something else to do, but it gives you an idea of what they're thinking. And then cue cards. You can have the students, everyone make their own cue cards and make them universal. You could do red, yellow, green. You can do numerical cards, and those cards, they have a different meaning depending on the number of the cards that they actually hold up on their screen. These are just a few different things that you can have the students actually do other than sit there and listen to you talk. Just a couple weeks ago, I was introduced to the breakout rooms function on Zoom, and that is amazing. And I think, it's going to be great for kids because the more they can get with each other and the more they can talk and learn from each other, the better. And it gives them some sense of normalcy because that's ideally what they would be doing in the classroom anyways. And then when they're in the breakout room, they can have different assignments and different objectives that they need to do. How many of you have had this happen to you? You're teaching a lesson, it's going well, and you're using technology and the students are loving it, it's moving. And then you get to that class, that one class that is they're challenging. They pull on you in terms of, you having to use all your tools, your classroom leadership. I like to say classroom leadership instead of classroom management. Your classroom leadership tools, they pull on you. But you rise to the challenge. You love them and you rise to the challenge. But your technology fails. Oh, your projector isn't working. Oh. And so what does that class do? Well, got nothing else to do. We're going to do a lot of this. And it's just like, I can remember those times so vividly because it's just so frustrating that I had everything ready to go. And now I'm going to have to fix this, and then I'm going to have to work hard to bring them back so we can get started. That's just a part of the job. But that leads me to the sixth tip that I want to share with you is don't give them an excuse. Don't give them an excuse. Students, they will welcome a reasonable, in their mind, a reasonable excuse not to participate. Now, sometimes things happen. Like if the technology fails on you, that happens. But I use that to illustrate the point that the students, they'll look for something. They'll look for something and try to make it stick. Where do you think the dog ate my homework thing come from? What is that about? At some point throughout history, someone thought that, ooh, that's a good excuse. I'm going to tell that to my teacher. The dog ate my homework. So in this era of distance learning, we have to make sure that we plan like a maniac. We got to plan like a maniac. That means that I know that you're already on point with your planning, but we got to step it up even more, even more. That means that we gotta be there on time. If we say I'm gonna be online at 1300 hours, we gotta be there at 1300 hours because the students, in college we had the 15-minute rule. Well, students today, they'll say, oh, 15 seconds. Oh, well, back to Fortnite. So we gotta our timing has to be sharp. Has to be sharp. Additionally, one thing I want to remind you about is when you're sharing a document, make sure you double check the sharing status. It's funny because I was working with my wife a couple days ago on we were having a financial meeting, and I shared with her a document, and it just took me right back to the classroom when she told me, she said, I can't open this. You need to give me permission. And so I was like, oh, I swear it took me right back there. I was like, ooh, this is that class. Well, don't tell her that I said that about her. So yeah, double check the sharing status of the documents that you plan to share. So things they flow seamlessly. That's what you want to do. And also, at the very top, you want to make sure that you set those ground rules. Set those ground rules in terms of, hey, everyone, make sure that you stay on mute. And if you have something to say, you can throw it in the chat. That's how we do questions. And you know, definitely I would prefer your video to be on so that I could see your lovely face. Just setting those expectations so that they know that, hey, I want you to be present in this space. I want you to be active in this space. And then definitely with that, of taking away any of those quote unquote reasonable excuses, keep parents in mind as well. Keep parents in mind as well. And what I mean by that is there is going to be an adult, someone there with the student probably. So perhaps your parents, they can also help you to make sure that student stays engaged. So if you make a request of a student and the student tries to pull that, I don't know how to do this. Perhaps a parent will hear and say, Jimmy, what are you talking about? It's right there on the screen. Come on, get it together. So keep parents in mind. And that tip, it's just, and with that tip, and in terms of removing those excuses, you're just going to have to you're going to have to think ahead. You're going to have to think like a student. And that actually reminds me of, those modules that we have to do. uh, you may have to do. I think most teachers have to do it. The modules at the training modules that you have to do at the beginning of the year, where you watch a video, you answer questions. Well, I know of teachers. I know of teachers who in the past they would get like 3 or 4 laptops set up and log into all of them, and they would play the different modules, and they just be done with it real quick. Well, yeah, like I said, the teachers that I knew used to do that. And I found out that now the modules have changed because they caught on to it. And the people who used to do that, they told me that they can't do it anymore because the module says your district, yada, 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 wants you to spend so much time on it. You're not spending enough time on this module. And so I share that story with you about some other people that I know. I share that with you to really buffer that point about we got to make sure that we eliminate those excuses, and we got to make sure that we also breathe, is what my watch is telling me. Advertisers, they'll hit you in many different ways. They'll hit you on TV. They'll hit you on radio. They'll hit you on different apps. They'll hit you on social media. So they have all these ways of communicating their message in order to make it stick. And kids, because they spend so much time on that phone, they're very visual. And this is how you could apply this. You can go with that with the visuals. And I encourage you, Canva. Canva is a really, really good user-friendly program. You can make stunning visuals and it's free. And I'm going to link to this program in the description section. You can make infographics, you can make flyers, you can make quick little sheets or summaries of the lesson for the day using this awesome graphics, stock photos, animations. It's amazing stuff that you can do on canva.com. Additionally, I encourage you to utilize recorded messages. You can just get on your phone, record an audio message, or your computer record an audio message or a video message if you want to. And it's about getting that message out there in different ways. And then last but not least, you can also use email, use text, but over communicate with your students during this time. There you have it. That's 7 tips that you can use in order to really start the year off in distance learning with a bang. Obviously, let me go back to the top here. Obviously, when you're first starting, hopefully your administration encourages you. I would say at least that first week you're spending time just really building relationships before you get into that content, because it's just, especially, it's so challenging because you're meeting many of these students for the first time. You're trying to establish that chemistry. I would say that first week, maybe 2, just establishing rapport. Who are you? You know, making that connection right here. And so I would encourage you to do that. Hopefully your administration encourages you to do the same thing, because still relationships are key. Above all those other things that I talked about, relationships are still number one. So I thank you so much for watching. And if you got some value out of this, please do me a favor and like and subscribe to the channel. And once again, thank you so much for watching. And until we meet again, never, ever forget that teachers are leaders. Bye.